Welcome back to Season 2 of Community Convener, the official podcast of Henry County Chamber of Commerce, powered by Georgia Power. I'm your host, Joseph Henning, President and CEO of the Chamber. We have a packed episode for you today. We're tuning into a powerful community dialogue featuring a panel of experts, Christy Chewning with Central Georgia EMC, Keri Colson with VyStar Credit Union, Dr. Paula Bloom from Kaiser Permanente, and Dr. Nancy Lewis with Progressive Techniques. They'll be helping us understand how psychological safety is the secret engine behind innovation, retention, and team performance. And later, I sit down with our Director of Tourism, Laura Luker, to see what's heating up in Henry County this summer. And we also have a very special member minute with our 2025 Micro Business Excellence Award winner, Judy McMurtry of JM Excel Consultant. And as always, stick around until the end for your community news and upcoming ribbon cuttings. Grab a coffee and let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome to Community Dialogue, presented by the Henry County Chamber of Commerce and proudly sponsored by Kaiser Permanente. I'm Christy Chewning, and today's theme is psychological safety, the key to innovation. When employees feel safe to speak up, ask questions, share ideas, and raise concerns, organizations perform better. We're joined by three outstanding guests to help us unpack this important conversation. I would like to introduce Keri Colson. Keri, if you would like to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning. Thank you, Christy.
Yes.
My name is Keri Colson. I am an HR business partner to VyStar Credit Union, which is an emerging credit union in the southeast of Georgia. You've probably seen some of our branches in Metro Atlanta, South Georgia, but we are very well known in the Jacksonville, Florida, and Central Florida market. I am also an HR coach and consultant for God's Keri, GK HR Consulting.
Thank you, Keri. And we also have Dr. Paula Bloom. And Dr. Bloom, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, everybody. So happy to be here. I'm Paula Bloom. I'm a clinical psychologist by training, and I'm the clinical director of behavioral health and wellness at Kaiser Permanente, Georgia. Delighted to be here.
Thank you. And rounding out our panel, we have Dr. Nancy Lewis.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Christy. I am Dr. Nancy J. Lewis. I am the president of Progressive Techniques Incorporated. And what we do is we do HR consulting, executive coaching, and a lot of leadership training, helping people learn how to play better in the workplace and get along better in the midst of all the constant change. So I get to go in and help change cultures and organizations and how people work better together.
Thank you. So, today we're talking about psychological safety. And so, in practical terms, what does psychological safety mean in today's workplace? And we'll start with you, Keri.
In today's workplace, it would mean a healthy work culture where employees feel like they have a safe environment to voice their concerns, their ideas, their creativity without fear of retaliation. Psychological safety also means that we provide resources for employees through EAP support, different coaching and consulting sessions, if you will, roundtables. But in a nutshell, it is a healthy workplace culture where employees have a voice, and there's a system in place to where they are heard and follow up and action is taken care of.
How about you, Dr. Bloom? What do you see as psychological safety?
Yeah. So I see psychological safety really as a leadership skill and not a personality trait or an innate part of the culture, right? It's something that has to do with moving people from fear, which completely blocks innovation because you're in survival mode, right? To a place of innovation, which means there's safety to use the parts of your brain that are needed for higher level thinking and collaboration. So I love what Keri said. I really agree with everything Keri said about what psychological safety is. I look forward to getting to talk about how we create it and what happens when we don't.
Dr. Lewis, how about you?
When you come kind of at the end, it's like a lot has been said. I mean, it is really psychological safety is really being able to come to work and bring your full self there, or as much as you possibly can without fear of someone judging you because you're different. Not dreading to come to work on Sunday night because I have some friends who sometimes are going through difficult seasons where they're not excited about coming to work, and that's a bad place. But it really starts with leadership. Psychological safety starts at the top, but it's reinforced in everyday interactions. And that's what happens with leaders have to be able to do that. So it's basically creating an environment where the leaders are modeling it and people see it, but it's not just every now and then it's a consistent behavior, and it frees people that are working for them to have the ability to share what's on their mind without fear of retaliation.
Yeah, so it sounds like that we're creating a workplace where people can actually perform, is
Yes.
what I'm hearing.
Yes.
And so, let's move on a little bit and talk about the fear that an employee has, that not wanting to go to work on Sunday evening. And, just really speaking really honestly, what are the signs that employees might not feel safe? Keri, you want to answer that?
Yes, you will see a decrease in engagement when it comes to engagement surveys, when we're trying to figure out how we're doing as a company, how we're doing as a leadership team, you will start to see decreased engagement. You will also start to see increased turnover and increased absenteeism. When employees do not feel psychologically safe to come to work, they don't want to show up in places where they don't feel like they have a voice. They don't want to voice opinions when they feel like they aren't being heard. In addition to that, it is also a morale issue. And so you can literally feel the tension when you're walking to some of these branches. And I'm only using branches because I support branches. When you're walking into some of these branches that have high turnover, decreased engagement and morale, and when I start asking questions, they literally start to dump because I'm the neutral party, that is able to listen to their concerns, their feedback, their ideas, etc., take note of that, and then bring it back to that leadership team to let them know our opportunities, our challenges, and how we can get better. But that is a telltale sign when you start to see increased absenteeism, when you start to see less engagement and participation, and you start to see attendance issues happening. People aren't wanting to show up because they don't feel safe.
Hey, can I add something to that, Christy? Is that okay?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
I love what you were saying, and I think it's really important for people to recognize it's not really disengagement, it's self-protection, right? We think of it when we call it disengagement, right? I mean, that's what we might see. But if we think of it as people are trying to self-protect, right? What's burnout? Burnout starts as numbing because you have to protect yourself, right? And so I think that when we think about how we solve these things, thinking disengagement's what we see, but I think what's underlying that is people are self-protecting. And those interventions to address that is different, right? Than just people don't care, everybody's quiet quitting. A lot of times we put the blame on the employee, like, you can't meditate your way out of a toxic culture, right? There's no like, I'm gonna take a hot bubble bath, drink some green tea, and do some yoga. That's not a thing, right? And so a lot of times we put these things, and I think it is important to have benefits and wellness and all of these things, but still we have to acknowledge how many of these things are because of the system, and they're not. The onus is not specifically on the employee, but that's how those things often get communicated. I see that people are stressed. We've got these resources. Well, what about the system? What about the leadership? What about, anyway. So I just wanted to add that, Christy, kind of to the conversation, because we do hear disengagement a lot, and that's exactly what we see. But I don't know that that's a helpful way to then solve the problem.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Paula. What I would also like to add is, you said something very key. When there's a breakdown in systems, when there's a breakdown in processes, they tend to want to blame the people. But I always advise my C-suite leaders and senior leadership that, in order for us to get productive people, we have to fix our processes. It's the three Ps. We have to fix our processes, and we have to fix productivity. You'll get higher productivity, but we don't start with the people, and that is so true. So thank you for bringing that point up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dr. Bloom, let's talk about that employee and what happens when mentally and emotionally when people have a fear-based environment. What's happening there mentally and
Yeah,
emotionally?
no, it's so important. So we can all agree that at some level we're animals, right? And everybody here knows about fight or flight, right? Like, if something's going on, to protect yourself, you're in like your reptile brain, right? There's fight or flight. Well, there's two more things that are added to that. It's fight, flight, freeze, and then this is the one that I think is important that people don't talk about, fawn. Right. So a lot of times when someone is scared, they may not shut down. They may just say, everything you're saying is great. Oh, that's a great idea. They're fawning. It's a way to protect themselves. Right. And so fear looks different ways in different people, and each of us has our own go-to, right? Are you more of a fighter? Are you more of a flighter? Are you more of a I'm going to freeze, And so thinking about People are trying to protect themselves, they feel unsafe, and they may go to one of these reactions. The good news is there's a fifth F, which is flock, flocking for connection, flocking to others, right? Now, that often turns into a lot of gossiping and negativity and a lot of like talking about we're united against the man, you know. And so we have to be careful about that. But that sense of belonging and connection, we were talking about this with Dr. Lewis before this started, right? And, we talk about diversity, but it's important to talk about belonging. Belonging is really, really key and feeling a sense of connection. So anyway, just putting that out there, it's different on different people. But if you think about fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and flock, the five F's, that'll give you a sense of what that reaction might look like on different people.
I love that.
Yeah,
That is
that's
so
That
true.
good. That's good.
that's really good. Yeah, I really like that. Dr. Lewis, let's talk about the leaders and their behaviors. What leadership behaviors accidentally create fear or silence?
Those who basically shut people down when they have a comment, those who disagree, and it's my idea. It's like, anybody got another idea as opposed to, do we have a different perspective? Leaders who operate in total pride, who have no humility, who will not admit to when they make a mistake. They talk down to people. Recently, I had a situation where a colleague was telling me that a manager was so upset with an employee, they were yelling at the employee. And, so sometimes and again, people treat you the way you allow them to. So I always tell people, if you have a leader that is yelling at me, when I worked in HR, two things people could not do. You could not raise your voice at me, and you could not use profanity. Either one of those, I don't care who you were, the meeting was suspended. So I think people have to set some boundaries around what's respectful. We have all these things on the wall. In every organization, they have the mission, they have the vision, what they believe in, all those things. But many times the employees will say, that is a crock of mess. It is not real. So I think leaders don't listen to people. They don't actively listen. They don't try to create an environment where people want to come to work. It's their way or the highway. It's the fact that they will not admit when they make a mistake. They will pass the blame. And then it says it's the people, but no, everything starts at the top. The leadership sets the tone, what happens in their everyday interactions with the people, how they treat people, how they treat the janitor. We've heard it said, you treat the janitor like you do the CEO, but that is not real because sometimes people, bosses, leaders they have their favorites that they basically will coddle and let get away with things, and they have other people that they will chastise. So it is real in terms of the consistency. There's a lack of consistency of how they treat people. In terms of some people get treated one way because they're my friend. We fish together, we golf together. Others don't get that. So it's the fact that you see behaviors that are not conducive to building trust, which is lacking, which breeds a whole another issue because they don't have trust in the workplace. I don't trust you. Except innovation requires risk. Risk requires vulnerability. Vulnerability requires psychological safety.
May I add to that?
Yes, Keri, go ahead.
Dr. Lewis, so true. One more thing that I would like to add is when you have leaders that are making decisions in silos, they are not speaking to the population that it's going to impact. They're not giving them a seat at the table. And they're rolling out initiatives that we call change management with the lack of communication. And they're saying, and go, without giving people the time to adapt to the changes, even understand the changes when they aren't giving the why behind the changes. In most situations I see, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Right? But they decide on their own without putting all parties at the table to influence and make that decision that's going to be for the greater good of the organization. That is another way that, again, it creates an environment where people just feel as if, are we robotic? Right? Do we just go because you just told us to? And in a sense, what else can they do when that's their job and they don't have a choice? That's not a healthy culture.
And I'll just add one thing because you got the different generations on top of that in the workplace. The four generations that are working, you got the boomers still there, you got the X there, you got the millennials, you got the Zoomers. Now the alpha generation is the one they've not started working yet, but that's the generation that's coming behind them. But these four generations approach, and what we've seen in terms of a lot of research I've done is that the generation millennials and Zoomers, specifically Zoomers, will not stay in a place long where there's no psychological safety. They will leave and they will go out the door quick. Not just quiet quitting, no, they're quitting. So it's important to figure out how do we leverage the generations to come to a place where we can value everyone and they can bring their belonging and have a sense of belonging and want to be at work because we all add something very unique to the work environment.
Yeah,
Inclusive.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great transition into why psychological safety matters from a performance standpoint. So, why should business leaders care about psychological safety from a performance standpoint.
I just did something right before this meeting. I looked at something online. It says current studies show psychological safety is a critical driver of performance with high environments that do it well, 27% lower turnover and 40% higher innovation. That should be enough to make people want to create that environment with those stats.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dr. Bloom, what do you think?
Yeah. I wanted to add. So why should people care? Because until there's this saying, right, that is basically until you feel like somebody cares about what you have to say, you're not going to listen to what they have to say, right? Like, and so one of the things that I think about is I think about being imagine you're in a meeting room and there's a crack in the ceiling. And everyone sees the crack and nobody says anything. And it's like, okay, there's a crack. Everyone's feeling there's a crack. Like people are worried about it. Nobody's saying anything. And then the leader says, do you guys see the crack? Like there's this crack, right? And then everybody kind of relaxes and can focus on what they're talking about. Do you know what I mean? It's like this feeling. And so from a leadership perspective, I think part of what affects performance, especially what you were talking about, Keri, with changes, right, is a sense of like what I call toxic positivity. Well, I don't call it, I'm sure I've heard it. Toxic positivity, a lack of acknowledgement of what's difficult, a lack of acknowledgement of what's uncertain, a lack of acknowledgement of like, this is hard, man. We went through some changes and growth in here at Kaiser Permanente, and I lead the all the clinicians, the therapists and psychologists, behavioral health, and we did kind of a whole big change. And we started by just acknowledging the difficulty, right? Like instead of pretending, okay, like you were saying, people are machines. And so I feel like productivity. I mean, we are humans. These are not robots. We are human beings, and no matter how introverted or extroverted, no matter how confident or not, people need to feel safe in
Yeah.
order to bring their best self, right? And their best self, I'm talking about innovation, the ability to talk across groups. If you feel very unsafe and very tribal, you're not going to open up and be able to get ideas from other people, right? And for me, productivity often is about removing the barriers that keep us from firing on all cylinders. And fear is a huge, huge barrier to firing on all cylinders, right?
Mhm.
People say, oh, if I keep people scared, I keep them motivated. Not for very long. It doesn't work.
No, it does.
Like have you ever trained a child or an animal or like, that's like, so that is really, we are not in the ideal learning state because most of these jobs are higher level thinking, right? Like it's not. And so we are not in our best state of mind to do that higher level work when we're in the lower parts of our brain because we're scared and we're in survivor mode. How do you get to innovative when you can't feel like you can survive?
That's right. Good stuff.
Yeah. Keri, anything to add to this?
I just believe that, managers can create trust by welcoming feedback, if you will, asking questions. We have to develop a level of curiosity instead of judgment and instead of correction. I see leaders, all the time. But again, when you're getting, conflicting messages from the top and the C-suite only cares about bottom line productivity and not necessarily how the people are doing as we're trying to be productive, you have leaders that are trying to drive and crack a whip for productivity, but you're not necessarily thinking about the people that are driving the productivity. And so if we do not take the time to ask questions, to be curious, because every employee is different, we are not, cookie cutter, if you will. Like Dr. Lewis says, we have so many different generations in the workplace, right? And so we need to cater our messages to those audiences so they can feel inclusive and feel as if they have the power and are empowered to speak up, to offer suggestions, to offer ideas, and then implement some of those things. One of the things that I do not like to see is, we take these surveys, we do these roundtable discussions, and we do these focus groups, we jot down the notes, and then we go right back to doing business as usual. That does not work. And again, it creates more distrust after they participated and thought that they had a seat at the table, thought that they had a voice that would hear them if we are not going to follow up and do action plans. With no follow up and with no action behind it, what's the point?
People don't care what you say, they watch what you do. They
There you
don't
go.
people don't hear what you say, they watch what you do. The example teaches. You can tell me all day long you value me as a person, but I tell people as a certified emotional intelligence consultant, I tell people EQ is the secret sauce for leaders going from good to great. You must learn to emotionally connect with people that you serve at some level. I'm not saying you got to tell them all your business, but people are emotional beings. I don't care how strong you are still an emotional being, and people have to get to know people at the appropriate level with their emotions and to relate to them, not cookie cutter, but whatever you need for me to be successful. Does it take time? Absolutely. Is it worth it? Yes, because you have an engaged team, a team that's going to share ideas. Innovation will flow. People will stay longer. They're not coming there to retire anymore. They'll stay longer. But you got to create that environment. You have to learn the secret sauce of empathy and using it sincerely, not faking it, because people know when you're faking it. And if you're faking it, it will not work. So I tell people the secret sauce, if you really want to be able to connect through everything, emotional intelligence, EQ is a secret sauce to connect all the dots, period.
It absolutely is. When emotions are high, wisdom is low. And so you have got to be able to connect with people emotionally, right? Meet them where they are, if you will. And don't come with your own agenda. You have to come, being open and transparent. And again, that level of curiosity is so important because we can learn from one another. We need to talk with people, not talk at people, and not talk about people. Talk with them. This is a two-way street. This is not a monologue. This is a dialogue. And that's what is missing in some of the workplace cultures that are not healthy.
Christy, can I add one more thing? I know that we have a lot
Absolutely.
not a lot of time,
Absolutely.
so I want to be respectful. But one of the things to remember too is that we are social beings, right? We have literally, like, if you think about it, if I go to drink some water right now, you might feel thirsty. You might start thinking about water, right? We have these things called mirror neurons where I needed water, so I figured out how to make an example out of it, right? So no, but I mean, we feel each other. We are social creatures. We have mirror neurons in our brain. One person yawns, somebody else yawns, right? We say, oh, that's contagious, right? But we are social beings and creatures. And thinking about what others think of us is not weakness. That is survival. We need it to survive, right? When I was talking about flock before, right? And so it's very important to recognize that, like somebody said here, it's the behavior that's modeled, but even if it didn't happen to you, if it happened to someone else, you can feel it yourself because we are social beings. So somebody else was humiliated in a meeting, right? You were listening or you even heard about it, you feel that in your body as if it happened to you for some of us, right? And so recognizing again, you can harness the power of the fact that we are social beings and use that to help create support and to improve productivity. There's a lot of different strategies that leaders can use, and complimenting people publicly who've done things that you like, reinforcing the behavior you like, not punishing what you don't like, maybe ignoring what you don't like, but really praising what you do like. What we all know as parents, as pet owners, as whatever, these things apply across the board to working with human beings. We don't have to take all of our knowledge and put it at the door once we're a leader, right? And so I think it's important to recognize the power of being social beings and how we can harness that, you know?
And
Yeah.
leaders don't have to have all the answers because the problem is if you have all the answers, that's why you have a team. Leaders sometimes come in with all the answers. No, you need to pull what is your team no, especially those people that are introverts, because sometimes they have the greatest ideas, but you're not tapping into them and they don't feel safe, they're gonna shut down. So I tell people sometimes when I have introverts in a class, I'll do what I call think, write, share. I'll give them a question. I'll let them think about it, let them write, then let them share. Because introverts have to process. They measure twice, cut once. They're not going to just blurt out. Extroverts, boom, they got something to say. But I want to get those ideas from the people that are sometimes silent forces. They have great ideas. And in the workplace, leaders must begin to tap into those individuals sometimes that are not saying a whole lot, basically giving them an opportunity to have a platform, but it don't feel safe. Because again, you can be a disciplined leader, but you gotta have some heart in the process of leading. You have to bring heart into the workplace and working with people. In today's workplace have changed. People coming back to work now after COVID. All these things people they don't want to be there. People come to work, they're sick. They're coming when they know they don't feel well. All these things are factoring in. People, as they tell me, we're lifing, Dr. Lewis, we're lifing. And so people are coming to the work lifing. So you have to take that in consideration. Everybody's going through something. You just don't know what it is.
Yes. So let's talk about real solutions and just, what is the one thing that a manager can do this week to start working and improving that psychological safety? And the question's for everybody. Keri?
Yes, because I just had this morning. I had an employee claim, toxic work environment, retaliation. It was unsubstantiated after I did my investigation, but it was important for us to all come to the table to acknowledge what happened. I think that's the very first thing that managers need to do. Acknowledge what happened, understand that it may have been a misunderstanding, that this was not your intent, if you will, but that's how the employee felt. I also think that we need to work on active listening. We need to listen before we respond. Oftentimes, leaders, they have the answers or they think they have the answers, but they aren't really fully hearing the employee. They're listening to respond and not to listen to understand. In order to feel psychologically safe, people need to be understood. One of the worst feelings in the world is to feel misunderstood, right? So, to acknowledge that, I also believe we need to communicate with transparency and visibility. Again, I talked about earlier, C suite leaders or senior leaders making decisions in silos or in a vacuum and then rolling it out without thinking about the people who it's going to impact and influence. And then again, empower your frontline leaders. One of my favorite things to do so I can keep work off of my desk is to empower and strengthen the frontline leaders so they can continue to gain trust and credibility, right? If you keep saying go to HR, what is that subordinate going to think about you as a leader, right? Also, to reestablish psychological safety. It is extremely important that we do that when it did not exist. And the last thing is to be patient and consistent. You will not shift a work culture overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? It took us some years to get to this unhealthy place. It may not take years to undo it, but it is going to take time. So these are some of the few things that leaders can do and organizations can do in order to create a psychologically safe environment.
Dr. Lewis?
Carrie gave so many of them, so it's like,
I know, yeah.
she went down the list. I would say one thing also is to basically invest in your people, invest in people. Training leaders can begin to invest in them, learning how to become better, how to navigate through mental health challenges, how to do different things. So provide professional development training for them to be able to go to classes because typically who gets training are the top leaders. They get lots of training, but sometimes they don't cascade it down to the employees who sometimes are doing this. So I think if you really care about your people, that's a retention tool now also is giving training to people. We call them soft skills. They're not soft skills. They are essential skills because you need them for everything that you do. So I think actually creating a leadership, I have basically helped organizations create leadership development academies where you have a series of classes they can take for a period of time to develop their skill set because a lot of the young people don't have the skill set around professionalism. They don't have the skill set about communication. So they need help in that area. You think because you know something, they know it. I said, stop expecting you from other people because they didn't grow up in your house. They don't know how you do things. So also bringing back the idea of curiosity, welcoming new ideas, welcoming people to challenge you, that even though you may disagree with them, but welcoming the people to challenge you who give you feedback and take that feedback with humility and walk in it. Be okay with someone saying, may I share my idea and be honest enough to share that, creating an environment where trust and honesty are appreciated, celebrated, and not retaliated against.
How about you, Dr. Bloom?
Yeah, one small thing, openly admit a mistake you made and a lesson you learned, right? Wow, yeah, I pushed through that deadline without checking capacity. I am so sorry that I put that on you. Next time I'm gonna take a pause and I'm gonna ask, right? So, like, I feel like this, I mean, there's a lot of big things we can do, but also recognize the leader is not the person who has the best gauge on whether the team feels psychologically safe. They're not the ones who are best at assessing that. You need to ask somebody else, right? Because it's like, I don't know. Yeah, sure, everybody feel right? Like there's a lot of it's not a very it's a pretty biased question, right? So number one is you're not the one to best determine whether your team feels safe, right? There's other people that can help you figure that out. And number two, admit that you messed up and what you learned from it and what you're gonna do. Simple, 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 right? Um, Simple, not easy for many people, but just that acknowledging your own humanity and they're like, I just did not. I mean, how many times, the amount of times when I get patients who say to me, "Oh my God, my boss has no idea everything on my plate." Like, okay, present everything you're doing and then ask them to help you prioritize, right? But a lot of times the boss is not aware of all the things, right, that people are doing. So anyway, admit your own mistake, the lesson you learned, and what you're gonna do next time better. And ask people to hold you accountable if you don't do it.
That's right.
Great advice. Great advice. So, final question, and just give me a one sentence. What kind of workplace do people thrive in? And we'll start with you, Keri.
The workplace that people thrive in, I would say an inclusive culture, a diverse culture, if you will, where people feel that they are seen, valued, and heard. That is my superpower. And I drive that with each leader and team that I support. But people need to feel valued and heard in order to stay. And again, that contributes to their psychological safety. So it needs to be an inclusive culture where all ideas and creativity are being brought to the table or being open and to welcome that feedback. Feedback culture is extremely important, whether if we do a 360 survey or peer survey or an engagement survey. It's extremely important to be able to hear the feedback, identify those patterns and trends where our opportunities are, but to also take a look at our strengths and how can we sustain this, right? So again, about being inclusive, but also taking the time to pause and reflect and redirect if needed. I think sometimes, and I'll only speak for my organization right now, they are so aggressive with growth that they are forgetting about some of the things that we started in the beginning while you're out here trying to merge and acquire, other credit unions, if you will. Think about some of the processes that we started with in the beginning that are now starting to limp. We're limping through them. And you can tell because the turnover is starting to get high. These are things that we need to give attention to while you're so busy chasing money and bottom line. We need to slow down because now we're starting to have some growing pains. And again, we hear that, so we need to do something about it.
Dr. Lewis?
Well, I would say it's the point of where you have to basically create an environment where people can have healthy conflict, because conflict doesn't always have to be where you're tearing each other apart. Is learning how to disagree in an agreeable fashion. I think it goes back to creating an environment where people feel respected, valued, and celebrated in terms of when you do something. Recognition is a critical piece, that recognizing people. We praise publicly, we criticize privately, recognizing those moments, those opportunities to basically tell people, I appreciate you. And sometimes I found when I worked in corporate, I would just take donuts in out of my own budget. I'd take pizza in, whatever I think they needed, not automatically, but when something had happened where I wanted to celebrate what they had done, I wanted to recognize them, and I didn't care if I had to pay for it. So sometimes you have to be willing to invest in your people to let them know, I appreciate you, I celebrate you, and I'm big on inspiration. So sometimes I will have like a thought for the week. I'll put stuff out there because we can't get too much inspiration in the world we're in today. It's so much negativity. How do we begin to focus on positive things? So I have a lot of my clients start their meetings now with positive. What's one thing that's positive that happened to you in the last week? So people can change and shift the narrative because we're focusing too much on the negative. Are those things real? Yes, but you set the tone, you set the order, you set the climate based on how you show up. And I think leaders have to show up with a positive mindset, being open to having healthy discussions that may not always be something they want to hear, and having the humility to recognize, as Dr. Bloom said, when you miss the mark, say, hey, I dropped the ball, it's on me. Have humility gained so much. When you are operating humility, it does wonders. It opens up the door for people to be honest and say, hey, if my boss can do it, I can do it too. So creating an environment where humility is celebrated, people feel valued, they can talk and share and just be their full self. That belonging culture is so critical. That's what I'd say.
Thank you. Dr. Bloom?
Basically, people thrive in workplaces where they feel safe to speak up, make mistakes, be themselves without fear of punishment or humiliation. Full stop.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our guests for joining us today, and thank you to our sponsor, Kaiser Permanente, for supporting community dialogue and conversations that strengthen our business community. Psychological safety is more than a buzzword, it is a business advantage. Thank you for watching Community Dialogue, and we'll see you next time.
This week's Elite Member Highlight is Central Georgia EMC. On April 10, 1937, a petition for chartering the Central Georgia Electric Membership Corporation was filed, and on July 11th of 1937, the organization officially came into being. Central Georgia EMC, delivering safe and reliable electric service, requires careful planning, coordination, and consistent maintenance. Central Georgia EMC is dedicated to providing reliable energy while reducing our carbon footprint. As part of this commitment, Central Georgia EMC partners with Green Power EMC to offer renewable energy options that help members make a positive environmental impact. Thank you, Central Georgia EMC, for your support of the Henry County Chamber of Commerce and for our Small Business Resource Center. As you reflect on that dialogue, I want you to think about the environments where people do their best work. We often misunderstand psychological safety as just making a workplace comfortable, but it's actually about creating a culture where people feel safe enough to contribute honestly. When employees are afraid to ask questions, share concerns, or offer new ideas, you lose more than just communication. You lose innovation, you lose collaboration, and eventually, you lose trust. Remember, strong teams aren't built by eliminating accountability, they are built through openness. Here's your reflection. How do people experience leadership in your office? Do they feel comfortable speaking up? Are mistakes treated as learning moments, or do leaders listen with defensiveness? Now here's your challenge. I want to challenge you this week to create one intentional moment of psychological safety. Ask your team for honest feedback and truly listen. Recognize an idea that usually goes unheard or simply respond with patience instead of a punishment when someone speaks candidly. Culture is built through these small, everyday interactions. Through last Tuesday, 10.2% of Henry County's 183,612 active and registered voters have already voted in the primary. Have you? Early voting ended Friday, but the primary day is tomorrow. What's your plan? Visit mvp.sos.ga.gov for more voter information, and be sure and vote yes to East Block 7. Well, welcome back to this episode's Tourism Trends, and summer's right around the corner. I'm joined today by Laura Luker, our Director of Tourism. Talk about some of the affordable summer activities right here in Henry County. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So it's a busy season for travel and events. What's shaping up to be the biggest tourism trend in Henry County this summer?
Well, we talked a little bit last month about World Cup, and we are still hoping to see some compression, some overflow from that event. We'll see what that looks like. I think there's a lot of factors that could limit that this year, but we are still hoping to see some of that. And of course, we have the Quaker State 400 at Echo Park Speedway. That is always a huge event for us. The NASCAR races at the Speedway drive-in, two of our tallest, biggest, whatever word you want to use there.
Supercalifragilistic.
Visitation numbers for the year. And so we know that those are going to be huge. June last year, for the race that was June 28th last year, we saw a little over 220,000 people come in for that weekend. So we know that it's a big deal, and we expect the same thing for this year because it's coming right in the middle of that World Cup timing. So we really are hoping to see some of our internationals take advantage of that.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, that's always a good time out there. You know, for listeners to the podcast who are looking to explore locally, what are some of the standout summer activities or experiences around Henry County that you'd recommend?
Well, I think we got some exciting things happening this summer. The Henry County Aquatic Center and Water Park is opening this summer in June, and prior to this, we haven't had any public swimming opportunities, so this is really exciting. But we do have some splash pads, so if you're looking for less pool, more but still water, then they have McBrayer Park, Avalon Park, and Village Park at North Henry all have splash pads or water features. We're also really looking forward to later this summer to Refinery Hill. It's going to be our first winery in Henry County, so that's supposed to open. It's a gorgeous space, and then you'll also get to enjoy some of that incredible Grand Gourmet food as well while you're there. So wine and food, can't miss with that. Also, we had National Travel and Tourism Week first week in May, and we rolled out these new passes. We call them passes, but they're trails basically. We have three we've just rolled out. One at Signature Stops, Egg Roll Trail, and then Pour Decisions, P-O-U-R. So it's
Was SK behind the Pour Decision?
Actually, that was Tracy's idea. Yeah. So if you want to find libations in Henry, you can certainly look at that. But the Signature Stops is really a wide range of things you can do in the area, and it's also incentivized. So if you visit places, you can earn points, and then you can trade them in for cool prizes.
So the Signature Stops, if you told us an example of one of the Signature Stops, would it take the competition out of that, the incentivization out of that, or can you give us a hint?
No, it's yeah, you can go and you can see what all of them are. So it's Panola, it is Army Aviation, the Speedway.
Okay, so signature locations.
Signature locations. So it's a good, I think it's 25 locations around Henry, and you can download it. And it's kind of a guided tour, but you can pick and choose, but you get points for visiting each of them, and you can trade those points in for different experiences or opportunities. Summer is also a huge time for events. It's really a big event time. So Tasty Tuesdays in Stockbridge kicked off. Smoke and Mirrors, it's a car show at Sweet Auburn. That's been going on year round. Monday Night Cruise crews at Summit Racing, the Georgia Revolution, which is our minor league soccer team, and they just launched Geranium City FC, which is actually their girls minor league soccer team. So that's actually, I think they had their first game last weekend, and that's really exciting. So you'll have games happening at Old Warhawk Stadium. Goat yoga once a month. If you just want to cuddle with goats, go to Heritage Park. Concerts are happening at the bridge. There's
You
tons
can
of
find
summer
something for
camps.
every day.
You really can.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many things that are happening. And so if you go to our site, you can find all these great activities, as well as just the events and the activities that are pretty much standard throughout the year.
Now, where do they go? In the second itinerary, we have the Poor Decisions, we have the signature stops, and then the other one was
the Egg Roll Trail.
Okay, tell us a little bit of that.
So if you've been to a lot of our restaurants, then you'll notice that quite a few of them have egg rolls, not your traditional egg rolls, but for example, Southern Fusion in Locust Grove, they have collard green egg rolls. And then if you go to 15th Street, they have Meat Lovers egg rolls, and Sweet Auburn has brisket egg rolls. And so there's I think 6 different places that have unique egg rolls. And so you can go, and that's not a
Do
very
you
long
have Highway 81 Kitchen and Tap on there?
I don't. Do they have?
They do.
Okay.
They do.
Basically, it's a collection of unique egg rolls. So we can't always grow the trail. So if listeners know of cool egg rolls, please let us know.
Yeah, I think they have a buffalo. They have 2 that I like, and one of them is the buffalo chicken. We might have to take a road trip down there.
I think
just
so.
to explore. And so where can they find those 3 itineraries?
So if they go to visit henrycountygeorgia.com and then go under our itineraries tab under things to do, you can download those.
Wonderful. Hey, we talk about tourism today. It's fun and entertaining and things to do in that. We like to emphasize the fact that it is real economic impact on Henry County and the region. How does a strong tourism season benefit local businesses?
Tourism in Henry County as a whole is just huge. I think we've talked before about how in 2024, which is the most recent numbers we have, that tourism spending was 10th highest in Georgia. So that's strong. And, we see like $33 million in state and local taxes that it generates. If you just look at the summer season, which is basically Memorial Day through that first week in August, we will see somewhere between around 2.5 million out-of-market visitors. When I say out-of-market, I mean people that don't live here. If you take a look at kind of where those people go, about 292,000 of those people visit Tanger during that time. 175,000 go to Echo Park. Southern Bell will see about 38,000 visitors. And when you translate those visitation numbers into finances, money, that visitor spending during that summer months is about 52 million. And then when you break it down versus overnight trips and day trips, so, you have both kinds of travelers, right? We want both kinds. We see more money from overnight travelers, which account for about 64% of our visitation. And they are generating about 33 million. And then you look at our day trip, people who may come to Southern Bell, pick some strawberries and go back home. That's about 36% of our travel during that period. And they're bringing in about 18 million. So none of this is small.
No.
It's huge.
Well, and I think, too, it bears repeating that this money that you're talking about for these visitors to Henry County that they're spending, and I'm sorry, I didn't do the math quick enough in my head, but we're looking at 80-some?
Well, total, we're looking at about 52 million just during those 2 months of the year.
So when you look at that, the impact that has on the roads, the schools, the aquatic center, that is what is helping get us to these places. And so the economic impact is so far reaching and so important that we have to support that day tripper and that overnight.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the visitors that are coming this month, what are they coming for?
So we see a huge range of visitation types in Henry County. I think we are uniquely fortunate by location, by the types of activities that we have, that we see families, we see individuals, we see sports tournaments, we see pass-through, we see people coming here for events like the race at Echo Park Speedway. We see day trippers coming to pick strawberries. We see really a little bit of all of it. And on top of that, we have our year-round business, like our business travelers, because we have so many industries and things that call Henry County home. So those people are coming and they're spending time. They may only be spending a night. They may be on their way to see the mouse in Disney, but they're spending a night here. And so they're coming in a lot of really great sports facilities. So we've traditionally seen a ton of sports marketing. We are starting to see, a slight deviation from just your traditional baseball, softball, and soccer, and we're seeing more disc golf tournaments. We have 3 really amazing disc golf facilities in Henry. The one at JP Mosley is actually considered one of the best in Metro Atlanta. So it's really bringing people in, and then that's just not even including our standards, like we said, Tanger or...
Yeah, it's funny because it draws me back to, I believe it was last episode, we had a conversation with Dr. Pace about the East Bluffs, and he was telling us that when they lived in Florida and they would drive up to see his mother in Metro Atlanta, they would always stop here in Henry and do some shopping and do some eating and that. And so, I mean, you see those plates all over in Henry County. It's a great
You do, and
piece.
I think if we look at visitors and we're saying, who is coming and who's staying and what are they doing? One of the things I was surprised about, maybe we've talked about this before, was one of our largest points of origin or places where people are coming from is Warner Robins.
Yeah.
And so that's that military base, and they're coming, and Tanger is a huge place. The shopping, particularly, Tanger, Henrytown Center, South Point, or whatever, people that are coming in, they're spending their money at our retail districts before going back to their places, which I wouldn't have thought Warner Robins was that far, and but we're seeing huge numbers.
That's interesting, and I do remember that conversation and how we were looking, or you and your team were looking at targeting in that, and that's another one that we're looking to build. So we'll have to follow up on that.
We've had our first couple of months, and we've really seen some great numbers.
Good. We talked about JP Mosley Park and its recognition and the Echo Park Speedway and Tanger, but what are some of those hidden gems or underrated spots in Henry County that people should add to their summer bucket list that they might not know about?
Well, and I think that while we're talking about Echo Park, before we jump off that, keep in mind that it is a facility for events, but they also offer a tour. It's an hour-long tour from their gift shop. It's $15, and it includes laps around the track in their van. So it's really cool. So if you're looking for something to do that's different, and you can do that, I feel like people don't know that aspect of the Speedway exists. So it's really a fun thing to do. I'd say that if you have not done the Huey helicopter ride at Army Aviation Heritage Foundation, it should absolutely be on your bucket list. Right there by Echo Park at Atlanta Speedway Airport. They do a ride Saturday once a month, and it is an incredible experience. It's absolutely like a bucket list type item. Panola Mountain State Park is actually a conservation park. So it's a monadnock. That's your fun word of the day. Okay. And unlike Stone Mountain or Arabia Mountain, it was not quarried. And so it's a pristine ecosystem. And so there are plants that live at the top of Panola that live nowhere else in the world. And you can go and see those with your guided hike. They do guided hikes only, but they also do some really fun sunset hikes. So you can actually hike up right before sunset, do your tour of the mountain. They talk about the plants, and then you come around and you watch the sunset over the skyline of Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
So during the summer months, it actually does set right over the skyline. So it's gorgeous. They also have a fishing lake and bike rentals and bike paths. So, if people don't know about their bike rentals or their fishing, a lot of times you have to have a Georgia fishing license. And also, if you have a Georgia fishing license, you can fish at Nash Farm Park. They have a stocked fishing lake. It is actually through a partnership, I think, with DNR that DNR stocks it. So those are both great opportunities. If you're looking for a staycation, maybe you want to stay, want to have a little bit of away time, but want to be pampered, Stockbridge Lakes Bed and Breakfast is Henry County's only bed and breakfast. And you can have dinner by the lake that's catered by their private chef, watch the sunset. You can schedule a private massage on site. You can stay in their incredibly beautiful rooms or their little cottage, and you can even do some fishing there too. It's catch and release, or you can just feed the fish. Marvin would love to do that. It's just really, they have so many really cool things. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't say that one of the things that I think is that hidden gem in a nutshell, or in a barn in this case, is the newly named James Jim Joyce Veterans Museum at Heritage Park. We've probably all been to Heritage, you've walked around, but that red barn on site is actually a incredible museum. It's volunteer run, and all the volunteers are veterans, and they have just incredible stories they can tell.
What about further south in Henry County? What do we have around Locust Grove and that might be new to people?
So I think people are familiar with Noah's Ark, and they have their behind the scenes Walk on the Wild Side tour. They have a couple of different options you can do. You can do a private tour or a guided tour. If you want to do a private guided tour, you can go inside the fences and inside one of the fences.
Okay.
There are 2 sets, don't worry. But you can go inside, and then they can do some special, like they do feeding demonstrations and stuff, and they'll really talk to you. So it's really incredible. There's a bookstore in Locust Grove called Conversation Starters. And if you want to do game nights, paint and sips, if you want to record your own podcast, they have a podcast studio there that you can record. They do book signings and writing workshops. They do a bunch of really cool stuff. So highly recommend.
So everything, there's so much to do from North and Stockbridge down through Hampton and McDonough into Locust Grove. For people to think that there's nothing to do around Henry County, it's kind of uninformed in that they just need to go to your website and you can see all kinds of things.
Go to our website, pick up a visitor's guide, give me a call. I'll talk your ear off.
How is Visit Henry helping position the county as both a tourism destination, but also a place that people want to invest, relocate, do business?
Well, our primary mission is to market Henry County to visitors and as a place to visit. But we know that the visit is usually the precursor to larger investments. Before people choose to, invest personally by moving or professionally by putting a business there, they want to visit that place. And if they've had a good experience there, then they're much more likely to make that longer term or that larger investment. So we really focus on telling Henry County's story and hoping to help our partners tell their story so that we put our best foot forward and that we are a place that people want to not just visit, but to come and stay and to put down roots. I think one of the ways that we've done this is we've been really fortunate to work with a group of artists through our arts consortium, and we installed the Bushy Tail Art Trail, which is our 31-stop art trail that features small squirrel-sized picnic tables that are all decorated by local artists. We had some really great success with that and got some attention because we want it to be a placemaking. And as part of that, we also worked with the city of Hampton and done several pieces that commemorate Hampton's Rosenwald schools. And so that's going to be part of their larger placemaking of telling Hampton's story and their history of the Rosenwald School. We've also had several murals done. And so this is all done to try to make Henry County attractive to a variety of people, to feel like that quality of life has been elevated. And it's just one piece of the larger puzzle.
Well, I think that's a very important point to make, and that is where the chamber side of the organization focuses on local promotion among residents and other businesses. The tourism side focuses outside of Henry County in order to get people to choose Henry as a destination. And so a lot of times the listener might hear something about Visit Henry and think, well, what are they even doing? Because I never see ads from them. I never see, that. But you just mentioned amazing pieces from the Bushy Tail Art Trail, the Rosenwald displays, and the murals, including the one at Heritage Park, and there's several in Locust Grove in that. But those are things that you all have brought to Henry County through the Artist Consortium that they will see, and to know that that was something that you all were behind in order to create this placemaking space for Henry County.
I mean, it's really about the partnership because it's really couldn't have happened, obviously, without the cities or the artists all working together. And it really just demonstrates what can be accomplished when a lot of groups with similar interests works together. And the results have been incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we wrap up, what's one thing you'd encourage residents to do this summer to support local tourism and local businesses?
Explore. I mean, our tagline is Better Explored. It's the name of our magazine, because Henry County really is not a place that I think you can fully experience just by visiting maybe the same old places that you've always gone. We really have a lot of incredible things that are maybe tucked away or lesser known, or maybe you've been in business for a very long time, but you just didn't know it because maybe they're not flashy or maybe marketing isn't their thing. But whatever it is, they're incredible and they really are worth exploring. So I would encourage people to visit our website, pick up our visitor's guide, talk to your friends and family, see what they like, find a local restaurant or an attraction or a boutique that you didn't know existed and visit it. And when you do, share your experience online. Join us in spreading the news that Henry County is truly better explored.
Perfect. Thank you. I think one thing as we leave our listeners today is let's go back and touch on the 3 new itineraries you have have and where they can find them, because I think that is a perfect way. Pick one of those itineraries and start exploring Henry County. So walk us through those 3 itineraries again and where they can find them.
Okay. So those 3 itineraries are signature stops, egg roll trail, and poor decisions. And so if you go to visit henrycountygeorgia.com and go under things to do and itineraries, then you will see those trails or passes listed. You can download them. It's not a true app. It's a web-based app system, but you download it and it is location-based. So you check in once you're there.
So let me ask this. Can we do this on a weekend? Like if I had company in and I wanted to do the egg roll, we could get that all in a weekend?
Yes, you
Okay.
could. So that one's 6, I think, stops right now until we add some places.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
egg rolls, but I'll be into it.
Yeah, you could do that. Visit some of the things like the signature stops. There's 25. You can pick and choose how many places you go.
You might do that over a few weekends.
So, and the thing with the signature stop ones, because it's an incentive-based one, you can earn points. So you can do it over several weekends, and you can amass your points, and you can choose to save them until you can get to the prize level that you would like.
Kind of like Dave & Buster's.
Yes, exactly. But if you really are only going to be here for a weekend and you're excited about getting, your magnet or whatever, you can do your 2 or 3 stops. You can submit and we'll send you your magnet.
That's just wonderful. I think those are some great ways for Henry County residents to get out and explore with those great, or even the Bushy Tail Art Trail if they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go find that. So I appreciate that. One more time, your website?
Visit henrycountygeorgia.com.
Laura, thank you so much, and we'll be right back.
You've heard about our podcast sponsorships, so why not make it your moment? We'll record your ad, give your business a shout out, and even offer a bundle with our e-newsletter to expand your reach. It's simple, affordable, and built to highlight what makes you stand out. Reach out to Trinity at tarcher@henrycounty.com to get started.
And now it's time for our Member Minute. We're so proud to highlight Judy McMurtry, our 2025 Microbusiness Excellence Award recipient and owner of JMXL Consultant. One of the greatest privileges I have as the CEO of the Henry County Chamber is seeing the incredible caliber of talent we have right here in our community. Today's guest is the personification of that talent. She's a former aviation executive who has taken her expertise in complex operations and turned it into a powerhouse consulting firm. She's been a key architect in how we support our solopreneurs, and just this past February, she was recognized at our 59th annual gala for microbusiness excellence. Please welcome the founder of JMXL Consultant, Judy McMurtry. Judy, congratulations again on the award, and welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I love my chamber. It's incredible. Henry County Chamber is really growing and amazing and doing some wonderful things for the business community. So thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, as you say, the growth and that it is, I think what makes it so much fun is it's collaborative. This is not me or the team sitting in a silo, but it is working with our members to determine what it is that they want. And for example, when we did the Henry Hub Think Tank, I think we did 3 conversations with them, and each time checking in with them based on what they said the prior time and if we were going in the right direction. And so I think I'm really excited the way that turned out, and we've got some other think tanks planned in that. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate your involvement in that.
Oh, absolutely. It was my pleasure just to connect with the members and understand their needs and what they like. They love networking for sure, and that shows that isolation is real, especially for solopreneurs. So that's good to know that we're able to provide them what they need.
Judy, let me ask you that. We've talked about you being involved deeply in the program development and that. And when we look at the Henry Hub or our core collective, which are the peer groups, you've helped us shape those into real ecosystems. So from your perspective, why is it so critical for a solopreneur to move away from that lonely island mentality and into these peer-led advisory spaces, communications, building a community?
Yes. Well, it's a great quote from John Maxwell, my mentor, and he says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go further, you need a team. So a solopreneur cannot grow or scale to that level unless they collaborate or build that strong team. So that's why it's extremely important not to be on an island by yourself. It's expensive It's very expensive.
And you had mentioned scale.
Yes.
And when you speak about that, and we see a lot of entrepreneurs who have a great product, but a messy back office, why is an executive diagnostic conversation usually the first thing you recommend to a business looking to scale?
Well, for the most part, if you're looking to scale or grow, your infrastructure have to be strong. And if your infrastructure is not strong and your people are not aligned, so it's people and processes, you can grow quickly, but you're going to stagnate. You're going to freeze. You're going to not be able to go above your ceiling.
You're going to hit that plateau a lot quicker.
And that's why it's important to build that infrastructure first. But most organizations or businesses don't do it. They feel they don't have the money. They don't need it. They start off, they have a great idea, and then they just run with it. And
until they're exhausted.
Exactly. And then it just plateaus.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of times when you see them just give up in frustration and close the door. And that's not necessarily the right response, is it?
Yes, that's correct. Well, and since I do have that aviation background, and unfortunately, I'm going to use Spirit as an example. 34 years in business. They grew, they had a great concept of low-cost carrier and wanted to serve the community and give everybody opportunity to fly at a lower cost. However, they never adapted. They never had a solid structure in place to continue that growth. So unfortunately, not just Spirit, you have Blockbuster, the list goes on and on, Kodak, it's so many organizations that do that, and they don't have the people aligned where they have the vision where it could be executed upon. And then they don't have a solid infrastructure. They're people that, they hire, but to what level?
Yeah.
That's required or needed.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I think it's amazing you've taken JMXL Consultants so far beyond the borders of Georgia.
Yes.
That you are facilitating these strategy and training sessions for global organizations, and you're appearing at international summits.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely.
When you're sitting in a room with global leaders, does that efficiency math change, or is a broken system the same whether it's a local shop or a multinational corporation?
It's the same. It doesn't matter. A broken system is a broken system. And a lot of the international companies are feeling the same pain. So I have been working with companies. Right now, I have a client in Sweden that I am helping scale her business. So it's the same. And it's the same process that I use.
So even size doesn't matter, national origin doesn't matter. Everybody's kind of dealing with some of the same issues.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. Because again, I talk about the aviation. I love Delta, and Delta is a great company as well. But at the time, they grew extremely fast as well. And there was some processes that they needed adjustments on as well. So it doesn't matter about the size.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because you can have the plan to grow, and that can be through acquisition, that can be through natural growth. But if you're not prepared, there's always going to be some changes that come with that.
Yes.
And if you're not prepared for that next step, you're just going to stumble.
That's true, because I just worked in January with the largest water and water waste company in the world, a global company. And yes, my diagnostic approach appeared to be very useful in that. So let's put it that way. So just wanted to put it mildly, but yes, it mattered.
Well, we've talked a bit about the aviation industry, and that's an industry where a tiny operational error can have massive consequences.
Oh, yes.
How much of that high stakes mindset do you bring into your training sessions with small business owners?
Actually, I bring it all, everything that I've learned from the airline industry, because think about it. It's great to plan, but preparation is key. So you plan for the best and prepare for the worst. And most people don't ever think about the worst.
Yeah.
They always think about planning for the best case scenario, but you always have to have a backup. Think about COVID when that came about. Look at the war. Look at the gas prices now. I mean, are you prepared where your business is going to sustain itself throughout all of this, or are you going to close the door?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Shifting to, you've been a stalwart for our mentoring programs and the different pieces that we've developed. So for the entrepreneur listening who is currently hitting a ceiling in their growth, what is the one question they should be asking a mentor right now?
Actually, what are they doing to be a bottleneck to their organization? And I found that organizations with the leaders sometimes can be a bottleneck as well. So are they growing? Are they investing in themselves so they can invest in others or their business? So that's the one question I'll ask my mentor all the time. As you mentor me, what do you see me as being the bottleneck? What am I doing that's the bottleneck of my organization that's preventing me from growth?
That's a great answer, and I think that leaves us to the next the question. As someone who's constantly learning and facilitating, is there a specific book, podcast, or piece of media that has significantly influenced your professional philosophy, something you think every leader in Henry County should have in their toolkit?
Oh, absolutely. It's 2 books. One is Live Life Rich by Marissa Nielsen, and that particular book provides that discipline and clarity in the financial aspect of leadership. You can build a successful business yet lack financial control and direction. This book also focuses on building wealth intentionally, personally, and professionally. It reinforces the ideal that successful business requires strong habits, clear plans, and consistent execution. But not only that book, another one that is a favorite of mine that I really read a lot is The Science of Scaling, and that's by Benjamin Hardy and Blake Erickson. And that book right there, it really helps challenge you about your growth. It's if you want to go 5x, 10x. So I'm shooting for 10x at this point. And it also focuses on the time frame on which you can accomplish this. The time is really is the one that's pushing you towards achieving. So most people work below their floor and they're not able to raise the floor because they give themselves a longer time frame, which they give excuses to not accomplish their goals. So I mean, I love this book, and it's the same. It just really helps.
And I'm sorry, that one, the scaling one was The Science of Scaling.
The Science of Scaling by Benjamin Hardy and Blake Erickson.
Okay, and then Live Life Rich is by
Marissa Nielsen.
Okay, all right, that's great. Those are 2 great tools that we can have now.
I focus on these tools also for my framework, which is Total Business Turnaround. That's my new framework that I have been leveraging to go into businesses to analyze the operation.
So tell me how that works for one of our solopreneurs or entrepreneurs.
Well, I give a free assessment so they can evaluate where they're at that point. And then what I do is I'll go in or have a discovery call with them if they wanted to hire my services and find out where they're at after they take an assessment. And then I'll go into the operation and do my evaluation with the employees and the processes that they have in place, as well as it's 4 phases to it. The evaluation takes a few days. Then the second one is 90 days. And that's the one I will come alongside to make sure you put the changes in place. But then you have the 6 months because, habit take a while to form, right? Or even the 1 year, if it's really bad off, I can stay a year and come alongside you and your team to make sure it works and you get the results that you were looking for.
That's amazing. You've been a foundational part of our chamber's success and a mentor to so many. Before I wrap up, for those who want to bring that Excel mindset into their own infrastructure and want to hear more about the diagnostic conversation and the turnaround opportunities, where's the best place to find you?
LinkedIn, Judy McMurtry, or they can go to my website at excelwithjudy.com.
Wonderful. Judy, thank you. Thank you for your leadership and for being a true champion for excellence in Henry County. To our listeners, if your infrastructure is holding you back, it's time to audit your systems, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Judy, for all you do. Now, let's highlight some news from around our membership. Henry County Water Authority is hosting a spring supplier conference on May 21st at 10 a.m. It's a great chance to learn how to do business with the Henry County Water Authority and hear about their 30-year capital improvement plan. Life Beyond Water is holding its Extreme Summer Camp 2026, which kicks off on June 1st and runs through June 26th at Harvest Village. It's a fantastic program for 1st through 6th graders covering robotics, coding, and entrepreneurship. They are looking to serve 200 scholars this year, so check out sponsorship opportunities if you'd like to help. Daddy Everyday Incorporated is working toward a $10,000 fundraising goal to expand their mentorship and workshop programs focused on strengthening fathers and families in our community. We have upcoming ribbon cutting, so let's celebrate these local businesses as they grow. On Wednesday, May 20th at 11 a.m., Caldor Acres. On Friday, May 22nd at 11 a.m., Sticky Cactus. On Tuesday, May 26th at 11 a.m., Sanders Real Estate. On Tuesday, June 2nd at 3 p.m., Oakley Estates. And finally, on Friday, June 12th at 3 p.m., Manifest Wellness Spa. For more member news, visit the dedicated section on our website. We have a very busy few events ahead at the Chamber. Mark your calendars. On May 21st at 11:30 a.m., join Richard Schnittker for the CEO Mindset Series. He'll be breaking down marketing that moves the needle, focusing on the 4 Ps to help position your business for success. On May 28th at 5:30 p.m., Business After Hours is at the Henry County Veteran Support Group. Come meet CEO Jim Dunn and the VSG team to see how they are supporting our local veterans. On May 30th at 11 a.m., our Armed Forces Day celebration features a panel on veteran entrepreneurship, free food from True North Pest Control, and appearances by Henry County Fire Rescue and Henry County Police Department. The entire community is welcome. On June 11th at 10 a.m., Bridge Henry Chamber Connect is the one-on-one guidance with experts on growth, finance, and AI. No workshops, just real steps to move your business forward. On June 15th at 5:30 p.m., our first teen entrepreneurship workshop for ages 12 to 18 will be at Fairview Library. This is a great pathway for young people to build a brand and learn the ropes of business ownership. On June 18th at 8 a.m., join us for the 2026 Innovation Summit. This is the big one. We'll be discussing leadership, AI-driven efficiency, and workforce innovation. If you want practical strategies for changing the workforce, you need to be there. You can register for all of these on the Chamber calendar on our website. If you're interested in membership benefits or sponsorship, give our team a call at 770-957-5786 or visit henrycounty.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new catalytic conversation, a highlight of our 2025 Business of the Year, and an important SPLOST update. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow the Henry County Chamber on social media. Until next time, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep growing with us at the Henry County Chamber.